Hello and welcome to Wellbeing Therapy Solutions live here on YouTube with me, Martin Crowson, and I'm joined by the Managing Director of Wellbeing Therapy Solutions, as usual, Kate Jackson. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, all right, thank you. We're here today to talk about the impending return to school, which is just nibbling over the horizon for many children at the moment as we get into August at the minute. And it's perfectly natural for children to start worrying about that return to school, isn't it, Kate, as August and the summer holidays come to an end. And I guess especially so with what's happened over the last 18 months with the COVID and pandemic and isolation and all those things being thrown into the basket to play on children's minds as they prepare to return to school. So specifically, what are the common worries that you find in children who seek help along those lines? And we must also just say at this moment that today we're going to probably focus on from year 6 upwards. So it's not focusing on the younger children today. That's going to be the subject of another YouTube live in the future. But for the time being today, it's going to be probably 10 to 18-year-olds we're going to be looking at, Kate. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, that's fair. I think some of the challenges for the younger children are different from those who are going to secondary school.
Yeah. So in terms of those year 6s who are just about to become year 7s, what are some of the common fears and some of the common worries that they may be going through as August ticks by?
Yeah. So for those year 6s moving into year 7, transitioning for most of them into a new school. I know some areas it's slightly different, but certainly where we live and in lots of places, they're moving to a brand new school. And I think for lots of those young people, there's so many what if questions, or, what will this be like? What will that be like? Particularly around friendships, they come from primary schools where they've probably got a group of friends or, one or two friends or bigger groups. What's that going to be like when I'm in this bigger mix of children that I don't know? And then some of the practical things like, how am I going to find my way around? Am I going to like my teachers? What support will I get? Will I get it right? Will I manage the workload? What will it be like? And I think a lot of that is quite natural, isn't it? When you're going into a new situation and it is a bit uncertain. And I guess, like you referred to in terms of what happened with the pandemic, I think certainly they won't have had the same transition period at the end of year 6 into year 7 where some of them won't have been able to visit that school or have that time settling in, working out their way around, meeting their form class, all of those things that they may have had previously. So that just adds to the questions, I think.
Just going into that point specifically, Kate, as well, I know my kids have come out of a primary school which was very small, one class for each year, and now they've gone to a school where there's 1,700 children at secondary school. And not only is the amount of children different, but you just touched about how to get round. Now their secondary school is massive, and that certainly plays on children's minds as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, for lots of children. I mean, obviously there's some kids that just take it in their stride and it won't, and they'll be absolutely fine about it. But I think lots will have just those niggly worries of, and I think the fear of, they'll know the system. If I'm late, what happens then? And will I get into trouble? Well, all these different things that all come in with the thinking around the what if that happens? What if that happens? And the fear of the uncertainty. So I think, for a lot of children, that's all quite natural and normal, and it's okay, isn't it? But I think it's about working out, okay, so what do we do with that? Those usual kind of worries.
Yeah, and I think for year 7s or about to be year 7s, that's the set of worries we've just touched on. But for the older children that are also going back to school, there's a different set of worries, isn't there? Even though they might feel settled at the school and have been there for a couple of years, it's also a different challenge for them.
Yeah, I think for all kids, really, for all young people, the change of routine can be a bit of a worry. What happens through the summer is probably quite different to your normal school routine. Just kind of getting back into those kind of things. And again, the next step up for work, what's required, what's that going to look like, what will my timetable be like, and teachers. And I think, I guess at this stage as well, that for some children, if it's been a bit tough, if they've had some difficulties in school or challenges, and some of those fears are real, aren't they? They're things that might be picked up again and carried on into that next school year. And it's recognising that, I think, and noticing that a bit early. I mean, our kids go back to school in 2 weeks, whereas other areas of the country, you might have another 3 or 4 weeks to go yet till they get back. So there's space and time to think about that preparation for going back. or going to a new school or starting a new year, and what that can look like. And I think we do have to acknowledge that even the most kind of settled and calm and grounded child will have some worries about COVID. And what's it going to look like? Even just what will it be like? Because there are changes from what they left to what's now allowed, or what the government are kind of letting schools do is different, and then they're settled into a way of doing things which is not going to change again. So change can be really unsettling.
Yeah, and I think they've, I hasten to use the phrase, got used to change, but there's been so much change over the last 6 months before they broke up, haven't they? It can be quite unsettling, I suppose. And also, I guess, even when they're coming home, they're facing situations that even their own family haven't been in before, with a member of the parents catching COVID, having to isolate, working from home, being furloughed. There's all sorts of things they've gone through recently.
Yeah, so many different challenges, and whilst lots of young people will have managed that really well, we can't underestimate the impact of that, even if it's not overly clear and overt. For lots of young people and their families as well. I think also young people may be worried about their parents and, like you say, friends and family members as well. Is everything okay? Because there have just been so many changes and stresses going on across the whole family.
So we'll tend to know our kids better than most people, and I know when mine are starting to worry because they stop chops in and start going quiet, and that's the time I start asking them what's the matter. So as parents, what can we do to help? And also, how can we impart our children to maybe develop some coping strategies to deal with things themselves?
Yeah, so I think that there's a couple of things that you just said. One is about noticing signs. So, you know your kids well. Is anything different? Are they quieter than usual? Are they chatting more than usual? Are they behaving in ways that might feel like it's bad behaviour? Are they a bit more challenging? Are there things going on? Because quite often what happens, particularly with anxiety, is you see all this kind of behavioural stuff on the surface, but actually what's going on underneath is quite different, and it can appear like bad behaviour, but actually anger and those kinds of challenging things may be related to some underlying anxiety about something. So I think asking the question, is everything okay? I think even if things do seem fine, it's about when it feels right, because I know for some of you might have only just started your holidays, I feel like you're only just into it. But for those of you that are coming, when you are coming towards that second part of the school holiday or nearer to going back, just asking, how are you feeling? What are you thinking about going back to school? Is there anything you are worried about? And having that conversation at a time when it's calm and you can just talk it through and listen to what those worries are. Because I think as parents, we want to protect our children. We want to fix it and make it all better. And some of their worries we might not be able to. Some of them we might have a practical solution, and we think, well, if I just phone the school and ask them about that, or if they might know. But I think just to allow them to. So I think quite often we might go down the route of, you don't need to worry about that. That's it. It's going to be fine. It's all going to deny it and tell them that they don't need to worry about those things. But actually, if they are worrying, then we need to let them know that's okay. What can we do to help? How can we help that worry be a bit less? What do you need to know? What action can we take to help that a bit?
What about when to bring that up with the kids, Kate? Because sometimes if you sit your kids down in their room and shut the door and say I want to talk to them, their first reaction with me is, am I in trouble? So sometimes I'll just throw it into conversation to get them chatting more. Is there a right way of going about when to tackle it?
Yeah, it's unique, and there isn't necessarily a right or wrong way. Your own children. I do think that sitting down and having making it a bit more formal can be a bit scary, a bit off-putting, especially if that's not your norm. If you're not, if you don't talk about these things or all sorts of things that might be worrying somebody, and it's a new conversation or it's different, or your child's a bit reluctant to sit and chat with you about how they're feeling. Maybe I really like the throwing it in, just kind of when you're having dinner or you're just doing something, just checking in. But maybe stuff like just going out for a walk, like let's go on a run and bringing things up. How are you feeling? And I do think there's something like being relatable. So maybe, kids sometimes don't want to know what their parents' worries when they don't believe you were ever that young that you that they went to school, and how could we possibly really be able to relate? But maybe saying just sometimes, when there has been change and there has been a bit uncertain, I'm not quite sure how things are going to be, that you find it a bit worrying, or and that's normal. So how are you feeling about going back to school? Are you okay? Is there anything you want to share or you want to find out that will help you feel a bit better about going back in.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it then that we don't know the answers all the time, and I guess if you've got a good relationship with your school, that opportunity to call the school if you know that a question can be answered easily is always a good way around it, isn't it? Because I know lots of secondary school now have got pastoral carers, and more are moving into making sure that part of their curriculum is strong and that they're supporting children and families. So don't be afraid to give the school a ring.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think schools would rather be able to answer your questions or support the child than things just go under the radar. Because I think if things are left and just kind of carry on, sometimes they can spiral into bigger things or bigger issues. So trying to contact the school. I don't know. It depends on what your school system is, but certainly later on there may be people back in the school, to speak to, or it could be finding out things from other families or of what's happening. But absolutely, I was talking to a young person who's starting a new school, and she'd been offered some support and was saying, I don't want them, taking out lessons. I don't want them talking to me and me standing out. And she was kind of saying, I just want to tell them not to do it. And we talked it through, and I kind of said, look, don't say no now. Let's give it a go and just see what it's like. If it's not right when you get there, or it doesn't feel right, I can support you to help you get get it in place the right way, and let's communicate with it. Because I think her fears about what it was going to look like probably weren't realistic. So it is about knowing what's available and what suits your child.
So, as parents, we can't fix everything. So what if we've tried these things with our children in the build-up to them going back to school, and it's not working, and their fears and anxieties are starting to affect their functioning in daily life? Is there any step up in what to do from that point on? Any advice you can give there?
Yeah, I think noticing those things, if your child is so typical things that might be a sign that someone's anxiety is increasing are things like maybe sleep's affected, appetite, withdrawing from situations. So child's more withdrawn than usual, or you're concerned that they've spent the summer in the bedroom and how are they going to get back to school, if social contact changes, or if then kind of behaviour change is really crucial. Could be a sign. So if you're noticing things like that, I think acknowledging it, trying to talk to your child if you're not getting the response that you'd hoped for, and they're or feel unable to access things. I think doing things like accessing Young Minds can be quite helpful. Young Minds is a website with loads of really helpful advice, but also a phone line for parents where you can talk through that situation and work out the best way forward. If it is affecting kind of day-to-day functioning, panic attacks, that kind of thing, avoidance of situations, then I would really encourage a conversation with your GP initially, if the child's willing to do that. But as an under 16, a parent could contact the GP anyway. Over 16s, we'd encourage that person to be involved in that conversation. But definitely exploring the options, again, maybe speaking to school, getting some advice around support from school, or accessing, you might want to access professional support through either a service like we run, which is occupation based and around practical solutions to support a child, but also maybe counselling or talking therapy if there is something going on with that child.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about what Wellbeing Therapy Solutions can offer on that situation, Kate. What would you do, or how would you help?
Yeah, so we take the approach of really getting to know each client that comes to us on as personal level as possible, really building that trust, because that's really important if somebody is struggling, if a child is struggling with something like anxiety or low mood, to build that they can talk openly. So we build the trust, and then from a therapeutic approach, we take a very solution-focused approach, which is looking. So we're not counsellors, so we're not going to go deep into the problems or the issues in terms of the way that myself and Marjolaine work. What we do look at is the strengths that the child has. We look at solutions to the problems. What can we try? And sometimes it's trial and error. And let's look at some practical ways. I think really keen on knowledge and that child having knowledge about what's happening to them, because it can feel so out of control. And with anxiety, it's around your response in your body trying to protect you and your mind trying to protect you from things that it doesn't necessarily need to do. So giving that child some knowledge can be really useful, but then some strategies. Okay, let's try out some different strategies to manage this and to feel better. And gently, we take a really graded approach, so breaking it down, taking small steps towards what is that ultimate goal. But we build a relationship with the family. So I know parents sometimes can feel a bit left out, particularly in therapeutic settings.
Yeah.
We try to work with the whole family. Obviously, the child is our client, but we try to encourage that communication, sharing of what's working and what's not, to help them.
And I guess the strategies, if the children can pick up on strategies to actually help them cope, that's going to help them hopefully in the long term as well, not just in the short term.
Yeah, definitely. We all need some strategies, don't we, to look after ourselves and our health and well-being. So most of the stuff that the child will learn will set them up moving forwards throughout all the challenges that we face in life.
Fantastic. And just to say a little bit more about the resources that are available online as well at the moment, Kate, because I know that over the last 18 months, there's been a real sort of social move in terms of mental health and well-being becoming in the nation's psyche more and more after what people have been going through during the pandemic. So I'd imagine, from looking myself, the resources that are online are a lot better and a lot more than they used to be 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the NHS website has just grown in terms of resources and strategies and really useful tips and hints and links to different techniques that you can use. So the NHS website's brilliant, and you can create your own mind plan, in terms of looking at what areas of life might be difficult for your challenges, and it comes up with a plan so that you can start to implement that to look after your health and your well-being. Young Minds is my go-to for young people. It's brilliant. It's just got so many resources and videos. It's really relatable for young people, because I think if you're struggling with your mental health, if you're experiencing something that feels like it can feel like you're the only person that ever has experienced this, and what Young Minds do is make it share real stories. They have advice and tips from young people themselves who've had difficulties in life. So it's really nice, and the parent support is there as well. So I'd encourage that.
Fantastic, thanks, Kate. That's brilliant. So I hope that some of the tips and hints there from Kate were useful over the next few weeks as your child prepares for their return to school. If you do reach a stage where you'd like to seek some professional help from Kate or Marjolaine here at Wellbeing Therapy Solutions, please contact Kate on the email address below to start a conversation. Otherwise, please subscribe to our YouTube channel that you're watching us on today, and our socials. Maybe you're watching us on today: Facebook, Twitter, and Kate's LinkedIn, to find out when our next live broadcasts are going to be. We're going to intend to try and do one which focuses more on young people a bit later on during the summer. So for the time being, that just leaves me, Martin Croson, to say thanks a lot for your time as ever, Kate. Have a good morning.
Thank you. You too. Thanks, Martin.
And thanks a lot for joining us, folks, and we'll catch you soon here on Wellbeing Therapy Solutions Live. Bye-bye.